sorry now.
1920s New York.
Heart is aching.
It weren't no place for a lady.
For breaking each bond.
Especially an innocent one. The city was up to its neck in crime and corruption. If you ask me, one of the worst rackets was crooked cops, prosecutors, and lawyers framing women for prostitution charges. Judge, this is a big mistake. My daughter doesn't even know where I am. If you paid up, they were supposed to tell the cop not to show and then throw the case out. But even some that paid the bribes got locked up.
Hold on, this is crazy! Mommy!
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm here with the writer and director of a wonderful film in our festival this year called A Mother's Promise. We have the director, Heather Waters, and the writer, David Woll. This is just a marvelous film, so thank you both for joining us today, first of all.
Thank
you, Katerina. Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for choosing our festival. And thank you for making the time to speak about such a great project and for putting it into the world. Let's start at the beginning. How did you two meet?
David, do you want to share?
Sure. Well, I wrote a feature-length screenplay called Vivian, which is based on the same story as A Mother's Promise, and submitted it to a screenplay competition, Creative World Awards, that Heather runs. And I was fortunate enough to win the grand prize in that competition. And as a result of that, we started talking and collaborating and thinking about how we might be able to convey this story in a short film form.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So that brings up a lot of questions. So Heather, you started this competition. So is your background in directing, so you wanted to branch out, or did the competition aspect come first to you to organize this competition? What was the impetus of that?
Great question. Yeah. So I have been in the industry since I was very, very young. And I started on the performance side and did that for many years. And then in my 20s, started really getting interested in writing and directing and producing, and had some opportunities. At that point, I was in LA and moved to Georgia to kind of get my feet wet and learn those kinds of skill sets. So I've been writing and producing and directing a long time, but the other side of me really enjoys developing other artists and creatives. So Creative World Awards is one of my companies that I have a partner with on the film distribution side in California. And then I also am the founder and producer of the Richmond International Film Festival. And so that's kind of, my love on the one hand. And then the other side of me is pure creative, and I have to be either writing or directing or producing, but I really genuinely enjoy both. And David's project came across our desks at CWA, and we were floored. It is, it is a very important story about Vivian Gordon, set in the 1920s. A lot of people surprisingly do not know about her story, but she got caught up in some very bad crowds and the mobs, and she was a mother and looking to gain custody of her daughter. And in that time, there was a lot of gangster stuff happening and a lot of corruption, and a lot of women were being falsely accused of all kinds of charges and just thrown in jail. It's not like our world today. And so David wrote this really powerful story. It won our top award internationally that year. And as he mentioned, we just started collaborating and going, you know what? We need to raise money for this feature. What would this look like to create, maybe more of a highly stylized version of the story in a short film? And it was just a joy, us creating together and pulling together the funding and producing it. And we shot it in Virginia, so we had to recreate 1920s New York in Richmond, Virginia, which was a challenge.
I bet. Yeah. So there's a lot you bring up there. Firstly, David, how did you find the character of Vivian Gordon? Obviously it's based on true events. A lot of people, would like something like that because there's something about a based on true events script, right?
Yes.
It just automatically puts something there. So help us tell us about your journey in finding Vivian.
Yeah, so I spent my first career as a corporate litigator for about 30 years, and before I started screenwriting, and I decided that it would be fun to write a story about a corrupt judge. To get even with all those judges who had ruled against me over all those years. And so I started doing a little research, and I came across this blurb on a website about Vivian Gordon, the woman who brought down Tammany Hall. I was like, wow, that sounds pretty interesting. And but other than that blurb, there was very little contemporary information about Vivian. So I started digging into the newspaper archives. And I mean, to me, it was like the greatest story never told because it involved this pervasive conspiracy among crooked cops and police, cops, judges, lawyers, to basically frame women on prostitution charges and then extort them for bribes to make the charges go away. And so that was part of Vivian's story, but it was just part of it because as I learned from, as I say, reading the newspapers of the day, she had her child taken away when she was falsely imprisoned. And when she got out of prison, she turned the tables and started her own extortion racket through an escort service where she made the men pay up to stay quiet about their illicit activities. Wow. And all of this was to fund the fight to regain custody of her daughter, Benita. And, it's a very compelling but also very tragic story because she just never stopped fighting to get her daughter back. But so that's how I came across it. And like I said, and Heather mentioned, it basically for about 100 years, it got lost to history. So that's why we both thought it was such an incredibly important story to get out there.
Yes, definition of an unsung hero, right? I mean, yeah.
For sure. Yeah. It ended up exposing. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Heather.
Well, through her, the tragedy, and we won't tell you what happens because we want people to come see the film and, get invested in the story as much as we have. But, through Vivian, she ended up being partially responsible in exposing the corruption that went all the way up through City Hall in New York City at the time, and which is pretty powerful. FDR was governor of New York at the time and ended up assisting her, later through, starting an investigation to try and expose some of this stuff. So it really is rich in history.
It is. No, yeah, that's why I think it's so layered because you have, the woman's issue side that, at that time, practically no rights at all. Right. Persona non grata, just invisible in society, so it's so important to remind people how far, we've come as women and as a society in being more empathetic and enlightened towards, sensitivity for all genders, races, creeds. so important on that level. Again, the historical, significance as well, the civil rights significance, and the heartwarming tale of, who can't relate to a mother and daughter,
Yes.
Right.
And being caught in this web of injustice, right? Which is so sad. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder, did you ever try to look for obviously she must be passed on, but is her daughter around still, or a grandchild? Did you ever come across any?
So, should I give the spoiler alert, Heather?
No.
Her daughter's not around, and there's no grandchildren.
Yeah. They could come to the Q&A and find out the rest of the story.
I like it.
Yes, this is true. No, but it's so, let's get into because I think it's gorgeous, like wonderfully done. It immediately soaks you in. How was it shot? The color grading is phenomenal. If we want to get into a little bit of the technical texture and aesthetics of it, please.
Yeah, no, thank you first so much. It's always when we're directing a project, you throw your heart and soul at it, and then you hope for the best. But I was really, really proud of the team that we brought together. It's a lot of folks in Virginia that work on the big studio projects that come through here. So we were really, really blessed to have strong department heads to help capture the film. And the other challenge was we had to shoot this in one location. And so we shot on a red camera, and, the DP did an incredible job. I wanted it to be very fluid, and we kind of went with a more artful, highly stylized sort of approach instead of more courtroom drama kind of thing, which there's elements of that in David's wonderful feature version of the script as well. But we kind of wanted to capture the feel of a speakeasy in the 1920s, from the costumes to the props to the music. We brought in, I work with some incredible musicians in the area. And so we brought in a band to kind of pull in that, Black Renaissance feel, as well. Because one of the cool things that is really not talked about in the film, but for history lovers, if you look back at that time, the Harlem Renaissance and the night, there was so much going on, during that period. But a speakeasy was one of the few places that you had a lot of people mixing and mingling. And so we really worked hard. We took a venue, which was actually a speakeasy, but it had black walls and looked completely different. And we had to totally redress that to bring in that 1920s feel. And Victoria Patron, she's just an amazing production designer, did a remarkable job picking out just every little detail to help bring, the set to life. So that, ultimately it's about, we want people to feel like they're right in the room. So a lot of that camera movement, we're using, where he's literally walking through the crowd, and, we spin around so that people get a sense that they're actually in the room dancing, doing the Charleston and the, right there hearing the band. So that's kind of what we were going for in the film.
Who's sorry now? Sorry now.
That's exactly how you did capture that. I'm such a fan of that era's, the flappers and everything. It's just all so shiny and so just like indulgent, like kind of like the opposite of what we kind of have now, so it's just such, different aesthetic. And the music is wonderful. It definitely does pop. What it reminded me slightly of, feel wise, Carnival. Did you ever see that on HBO? Yeah. Where every
Great.
detail was thought of.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we really got, we were fortunate to find Samantha, our lead. We cast her out of New York, and David is in New York as well. But she does a lot of like stage, theater.
Mm-hmm.
And so she had that voice. She had, the acting was there, but she also has a, gorgeous, she was formally trained, in her voice. So she really did an incredible job, adding to, I think, the texture, and just, she kind of just pulls you in immediately with her, look, and also her beautiful, vocal cords. She did a really beautiful job.
Indeed. Yeah, no, indeed. How did you find the child? Because a lot of times people say, it's so difficult finding the child, and, having to work with nannies on set or anything. So how did that casting?
Ada was amazing, right, David? I mean, she is, yeah. Was it, I can't remember now, at 8 or 9, but she had done a lot of stage too. And that's one thing when I'm producing films, and, I work with a lot of casting directors, it's like finding those children in particular who've done a lot of stage work and theater. They have incredible work ethics, and they sometimes are a lot more mature, and articulate. And I've always had really great luck with that. But Ada, that was her background, and she was remarkable. I mean, just amazing to work with as a director. And her parents were amazing. That, sometimes it's a package deal situation when you're casting kids. And her look, she looks like a little China doll. We just couldn't have been happier with her performance.
Stars aligned for you.
She was asked to, and did. We wanted in the scene where Always is sang. We wanted her to start a cappella. So she's surrounded, by the whole crew, and she gets the cue. And I mean, she was incredible. I was so impressed by her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
she's from North Carolina too. So we kind of cast the net wide to find her. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's great when you know specifically what you want, and what you want to create. That's, the benefit of it. I love, the walls like you created in the speakeasy. No, it's so rich. It just totally invites you in. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Well done. How long did it take to film?
2.5 days. We turned it around. We were on a tight schedule with the venue because we had to get them in their off hours, right? And so, it was certainly a challenge for us, right, David? Because we had to strip, and they were fantastic. We did it at the Vagabond, which is an incredible venue here in Richmond, and they allowed us just to strip basically everything down and then rebuild, bring our team in and rebuild it. And so we shot for 2.5 days, and upstairs is the National, which is a huge concert venue. So the last day, that threw in some hiccups there. We're trying to, do our takes in between, music sound checks and all that great stuff. But yeah, 2.5 days. And then we spent about a month in post. So we did a pretty tight turnaround on post as well.
Yeah, it's amazing. It is so intricate. I would never guess. I thought it would have taken at least 6 months to do,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Heather, in addition to directing, Heather produced and pulled together all these folks in the Richmond area, and through just, exquisite planning, made it possible for us to finish it in 2.5 days and to stay on budget and to get it done. So she deserves a lot of credit for that.
Thank you, David.
Both of you, will you take us through, because I think it's so important, because I don't know, I think a lot of projects don't get made because of like a lack of communication or, infighting or things like that, right? Because I think art is such a sensitive, you know, uh, undertaking. Can you give like some tips or walk us through what the communication is like between you two? Because I think that's important. I think people could learn from that. What it takes to make a successful team type thing.
Yeah. I'll share a little bit, and then David, I'm sure you have some thoughts to add as well. For me, I am very, very picky in who I work with because of the very reasons you just, eloquently stated. Because, film is. I think it's such a special art form, and it's supposed to be a beautiful experience, creating anything. But film is also one of the most challenging things literally in the world that I can think of doing. It's on a set, if you don't have that camaraderie and great communication, it can go south fast. And so for me, one of the things through the years that I just decided some time ago is only work with those people that I really, in those early talks together before we ever sign a deal, it's great communication, and I feel a sense of synergy there, and in how we communicate as well. And so that's kind of the baseline that I personally use. And then from there, if that's there, the sky's the limit. It's like, getting together that, you want to be, compatible creatively. And with this, I tell you, this is a special thing too, because we were working towards adapting a feature into a short, which is not easy to do, especially the type of feature script it was. So, but David and I really jumped into that process, and we did that, David, maybe over a 4 or 5 month period, 6 months. Something like that.
I think it was about 5 or 6 months.
Yeah. And he and I just really complemented each other and would throw out ideas. And I think that's a real special thing when you come across it. And so I knew because of that process, if there was a chance for us to then and go and make this short, that he and I would get along swimmingly well because of, and it was his story, right? So when it's your story, and a lot of people get really attached to it, but he did an incredible job, giving leeway for us to be creative and go down different avenues that we, are pretty non-traditional in terms of, linear versus non-linear, how we, decided to land on the story that you see on the screen.
Beautifully said.
Yeah, I would just add that, Heather is an amazing person to collaborate with, and as she described, we were simpatico really from very early on, and every script you write, you feel like that's my story. But with Vivian, I felt like I kind of discovered her, so she was really near and dear, and is near and dear to me, and so to find somebody else who was so passionate about her story and saw it in the same way I did, was a real gift.
Wow. Yeah, both of you, I think you said a lot there, before going ahead and wanting to collaborate, really meet with a person, get to know them, a couple of dinners, and the importance of having a deal, right? Of signing some kind of contract. So there's some accountability there on both sides.
Building a strong team, I think, is, the industry is changing so much. I'm, leading a panel next month on AI and the impacts of that on, creativity and collaborations that, may look very different in the years to come. But whether it's AI or David Woll, it's, to me, it's like the importance of building a team that feels, compatible, and that, you know, they don't have to be the same exact values. And, you know, I can work with all kinds of different people from different backgrounds, but you kind of know it when you see it. It feels right, like in how you're communicating. And it makes such a difference when you go to start creating together, that's already taken care of. And so finding your people, you know, I think is half the battle.
Exactly. And somebody brought this up to me recently, and I don't know, I'll get your thoughts on this. But I think some people also look like, you know, for aside from compatibility, that they kind of want like equal strengths, like, and to kind of be equally yoked, right? Like equally leading the team. But sometimes it's also too good to find someone that's, you know, even more like advanced, for lack of a better word, than you, so you can learn from them too as well, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's definitely what happened here. Yeah. I mean, Heather has extensive experience in, you know, producing and directing films. I don't. This was actually the first film project of any note that I was ever involved in. So I learned a ton.
Wow. Wow. It sounds like you had a great, interesting background as well. Do you want to give like any story? Have a little anecdote for us from the legal world?
Oh boy, I got a million more stories.
Where to start?
They will bore you to tears probably. But so like I said, I was a corporate litigator for about 30 years at a big law firm in Manhattan, and I think that's why this story intrigued me so. I mean, you know, we all have seen corruption, both in private industry and, you know, in public service. But to think that in an entire judicial system, in what they called the women's court at the time, was all in on this conspiracy that was sending hundreds of women away to the reformatory, which is a nice word for prison, was just astounding to me. So I think that's why the story grabbed me. And I don't think I have any particular anecdotes about my clients I want to share. But that's why I made such a connection to this story.
You know,
Sorry, no, please go.
Oh, no, I just wanted to add to that. I think that his background is one of the things, and I think when writers write about things that they're passionate about, it really comes through on the page, right? You feel it. You just feel it when you read it. And it's a different kind of level. So when I'm working with writers, it's like, or when I'm writing myself, you know, it's always trying to find that one character or that one situation that resonates deep within me. And I can't stop thinking about it. And then I know, okay, I need to tell the story, you know, but it begins with that. And I think that's one of the things that David did. And it just picked up that momentum. That was beautiful.
That's probably what makes you a good producer, right? It's you know what draws you, so you know that translates to an audience.
Yeah. And, you know, film is tough. Producing, all of it is really difficult. So for me, you know, I know myself, I'm a push up your sleeves, get it done kind of a girl. But if my heart's not into it, it feels, it's tougher to do. So yeah, I try and choose those things, you know, where I'm really for myself as well. You know, I have some passion and that keeps me going. And then it makes it, you know, the work that much more enjoyable.
Right, sure. Right. It's no longer work. It's a joy, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
So you have this, and you're going to then raise money to make the feature length version. Do you have like any logistics in place yet, or like?
We're just, you know, putting the feelers out right now. I mean, our plan was to really, take advantage in a constructive, beautiful way the festival circuit for the short, and start having conversations. Because I think once people, are aware of the story, those conversations we hope will lead to, that next step, which will be raising, the financing for the feature. Right, David? That's the goal, the ultimate. Yeah. Yeah.
So, David, has this inspired you? Is this your new official second career screenwriting?
Yes. I mean, I had been working on mostly feature screenplays until I turned to writing this short, and now, I mean, first of all, working on this has inspired me to work on other shorts, because you can actually have your story made and have it reach the screen, which, in the feature world is a lot more of a long shot. So it's definitely inspired me to write more shorts and to produce more of my own stuff. And I have another one in the works that I'm trying to get made. So absolutely.
Oh, beautiful. And so you kind of, I guess this is kind of in line with that. So would both of you then encourage people, writers to do that short, or a couple of shorts, versus like the version of, send query letters out to everybody? Would you like to touch on that topic? For a bit?
Yeah, I think it's tough because, as we know, most companies don't take unsolicited, material, and so to write and produce and find your team and get out there and do a proof of concept of some kind. I think, when we're doing, one of the things that we really tried to do with The Mother's Promise is create a short film that could stand on its own, even though we know it's representative of the feature. It's a standalone short too, but in some ways can be a calling card and a proof of concept for when we're, drumming up support for the feature side. But I do, a lot of people don't have experience watching short films from the audience perspective. And I've seen through the years running a festival as well, and I'm sure you have too, once people get a taste of short films, they usually love them, right? Mm-hmm. It just opens up a whole other world. And, it's quite an art form too, to get that story in a very limited amount of time. And there's so many different creative directions you can go, which I think is really fun for filmmakers to explore. And so I do think it's a great, path, right? Whether it's doing all shorts or, in some cases leading to features, it's one of those that I think is great for a person's career and also to continue building their skill sets as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I would just add to that from the writer's perspective, I mean, there's nothing like watching people perform what you wrote, and, to be on set and to see this incredible scene that, Heather's putting together with the crew and the actors, and say, wow, that's really good. And then to think to yourself, hold on a second, I wrote that. It's such a kick. It's just such a kick. So that's worth it just in and of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're good, unless there's anything either one of you wanted to add.
I think I'm great. You had great questions, Katarina. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both again. This film was such a joy. I'm a personal fan of like the period, and like I said, you've hit so many levels, from the corruption to the women's issues to the child. So it's just really a moving piece and beautifully, beautifully done. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And
thank you for all the great work you're doing, to support artists out there.
Yeah. And you too. Yes.
the hill.